Financial freedom is such a buzzword in the personal finance community, and you probably won't get far into a conversation about how to become financially free without someone bringing up Dave Ramsey. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about what it actually means to be financially free. I'm going to be reviewing Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps, giving you my take on them, and then sharing with you the path that I've chosen to take on my journey to financial freedom. Hey wealth builders, and welcome back to The Bemused, where we are making sense of all things money for young adults just like me. So if you're into that kind of thing, I hope that by the end of the video you'll choose to come and join the squad by hitting that subscribe button and turning on post notifications by hitting the bell icon so that you never miss a single video from us. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we are going to be talking about Dave Ramsey today. So before we begin, here are a couple of disclaimers and ground rules. Firstly, yes, I do tend to approach any financial advice I hear with a healthy dose of skepticism. I've put years of time and energy into becoming a financial planner, so I definitely do my research before implementing any financial advice that I hear from anyone. And you definitely should too. Secondly, if you didn't know, people are entitled to their own opinions. With that said, let's jump into the video. So what does it mean to be financially free anyway? Here's a definition I found actually on Dave Ramsey's website, and I love this definition. Financial freedom means that you get to make life decisions without being overly stressed about the financial impact because you are prepared. You control your finances instead of being controlled by them. So Dave Ramsey's path to this financial freedom is laid out in his famous 7 baby steps. So let's talk about what these 7 steps are, and as we go through, I'll provide my commentary and my thoughts on each one. Baby step 1 is to save $1,000 in an emergency fund. I don't know about you, but I know $1,000 certainly is nowhere near enough for a true emergency fund from my perspective. If you guys have been subscribed to the channel for a little while, you would have seen a few months back when I went through a little bit of an emergency situation concerning my vehicle and concerning the whole moving process when I recently moved into a new apartment. And let me tell you, that was definitely not under $1,000. So to me, $1,000 is just not enough. Baby step 2 is to pay off all of your debt except for your mortgage using the debt snowball method. Now, if you don't know, the debt snowball method is a method for paying off debt in which you line up all of your debts and you pay them off in order of the smallest balance to the largest balance. And here's what it says on Dave Ramsey's website. Now it's time to attack the first balance on your list. Pay as much as you can each month while paying the minimum payments on all of your other debt. We mean go after it. Sell everything you can. Get a second job. Sell so much the kids think they're next. Okay. You want to get rid of that payment quickly. When you've paid it off, add those payments to the monthly payment on your next debt and start attacking it. So here's my issue with the debt snowball. I definitely see how this method of paying off debt could be a good method for certain people who need a little bit of motivation in terms of paying off their debt. So it's good from a behavioral aspect, but overall the debt snowball method is going to cost you a bit more in interest over the life of your repayment, as opposed to paying it from the highest interest rate debt down to the lowest, which is the most efficient and cost-saving way to pay off debt. And this method is also called the debt avalanche method. Personally, I get a lot more satisfaction out of playing the numbers game. So baby step 3, after you've paid off all of your debt except for the mortgage, the next step is to then build up your emergency fund to a point where it's between 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Baby step 4 is then to start investing at least 15% of your income into tax-deferred accounts. And tax-deferred accounts mean accounts like your 401k or IRA, things that are going to give you a tax benefit for contributing to them. I guess that 15% number is just a nice guide for people to follow in terms of how much to contribute to their retirement plans, but it's really up to you. Baby step 5 is to fund college for your children. Baby step 6 is now to pay off your mortgage early. And while it certainly wouldn't hurt to pay off your mortgage early, in some cases it doesn't really help, especially if you have a really low interest rate mortgage and you can make a lot more money by investing that money. If your mortgage has a low interest rate, which most mortgages nowadays pretty much do, 4%, 3%, somewhere in that range, you could make more money by leveraging that mortgage and taking the money that you would have spent to pay down that mortgage and invest it instead, because the stock market has a higher average return rate than your mortgage rate, more than likely. So paying off your home mortgage is definitely not the best way to go for a lot of people. And finally, baby step number 7 is to continue building wealth and give along the way. And I mean, you can't really argue with that. So I can definitely see how Dave has built himself a cult-like following. These 7 baby steps make it very simple for someone who has no idea what they're doing when it comes to their finances to have a straightforward, concrete plan for how to become financially free and become more financially responsible. But here are the 2 major cons that I have with the 7 baby steps. Because so many people follow this plan, they built the notion that you have to be debt-free in order to become financially free, which is just not true. You can be financially free and not be debt-free. The terms are not synonymous. I've heard Dave say on occasion that this plan is the best plan for everyone, which is simply not true. These steps, though they're great for a lot of people, I'm not denying that, they work for a lot of people, they're not for everyone, and they're definitely not for me. Now I'm going to share what I've chosen as the best path for me and the steps that I am taking to achieve financial freedom. My first baby step was to build my emergency fund to $1,000, similar to the Dave Ramsey plan, by budgeting. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. If your budget makes you feel stressed, or restricted, anxious, or any one of those feelings, you're not doing it right. Your budget should only make you feel one thing, and that is empowered. So $1,000 was my emergency fund back when I was a student in undergrad, before I had all these adulting expenses. And after building that $1,000, I then applied what I like to call my 10-5 rule, based on the debt avalanche method. So step 2 for me is to pay off or refinance any debt that I had that carried an interest rate above 10%. A very common type of high interest rate debt would be credit card debt, for example. Now for me, I personally have never been in credit card debt, so I never really had to apply this step, but if I did have credit card debt, this is where I would focus on paying that off. The rationale here is that even if I have an emergency that is more than $1,000, at least I am limiting the effect of double-digit compound interest, which is definitely going to hurt. Debt taken out today at 20% is definitely better than debt taken out 3 years ago at 20%. Step 3 for me is kind of a 2-parter. The first part would be to continue building my emergency fund up to 6 months worth of expenses, along with the other part, which is investing in your employer's retirement plan, if you have one, enough to at least get the employer match that you're offered. And like I said, this is definitely customizable. Not everybody has an employer, not everybody has an employer-sponsored plan, and not everybody has an employer-sponsored plan that has matching capabilities. Then step 4 for me would be to pay off any debt that has an interest rate above 5%. So this is the step I'm on right now. I'm trying to pay off all of my debt that is above 5%. So that includes my car note and about half of my student loans. Notice that I didn't say pay off everything. I am not trying to pay off all of my debt, but I'm trying to rapidly pay down all of my debt that's above 5%. I am personally taking the approach that once I have paid off all of the debt that's above 5%, I am going to slow pay the rest of my debts and pay them according to their scheduled timeline. As I mentioned earlier, I think that investing my money at that point would be a much better choice for me because, like I said, chances are that I'd be making a lot more money by investing in the markets than trying to rapidly pay down my very low interest rate debt. So that leads into step 5, which is to increase my assets and save towards longer term goals like retirement, maybe starting to put aside something for a child's education. Traveling is another thing that's really important to me. And what's also really important to me is to be able to increase my giving along the way. And so I've kind of broken down my plan into 5 different steps. But in reality, what's important and an overarching theme over all of this is to make sure that I am living life along the way. Life is too short. So these steps are really where I'd be putting a primary focus in terms of my money, but it wouldn't be where every last penny goes. I still think it's important to, go out every once in a while, to travel every once in a while and experience life because you don't know how much time you have. So no, Mr. Ramsey, I will not be selling everything to the point where my theoretical kids think that they're next. Remember that only you can determine what financial freedom looks like for you. And according to Dave Ramsey's definition of financial freedom that we looked at earlier, I technically am financially free right now. I don't stress about money, I don't feel like I'm controlled by money, and I use my money to live a life that I love. So that's my take on all of this. What's yours? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, we are a community of love and positivity around here, so be nice. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.